Hello dear students, welcome to a lecture on sex education. In today's deliberation, we shall discuss first, the concept of sex education. Then, we will try to understand the need and importance of sex education. We will also discuss the aims and objectives of imparting sex education. We will also try to understand different methods of sex education. Then we will discuss various therapies that can take care of sex problems. And finally, we will try to understand the role of parents and teachers in imparting awareness about sex education among children. First of all, let me give you a brief introduction about sex education. Among the many problems that demand the attention of mankind, sexual problems are undoubtedly some of the most crucial. There isn't any country where the question of sexual relationship isn't becoming an urgent and burning issue. Mankind today is living through an acute sexual crisis which is far more unhealthy and harmful for human beings. According to Freud, man's sexual drive has both psychological and biological influences. He opined that the sexual drive in man becomes evident in his very infancy, and it is on account of this that frustrations of human life have their root in infant life. Abnormal psychology today generally recognizes the fact that every mental disease has its physiological as well as psychological aspect. For the normal development of human personality, it is essential that the person's sexual development should also be quite normal, because if the sexual development is abnormal, it may lead to many mental diseases and illnesses. Sexual adjustment in the period of adolescence constitutes a very important factor. Sex education is thus desirable for sexual adjustment in adolescence. Moving on, let us try to understand the concept of sex education. According to World Health Organization consultation in 1947, the term human sexuality refers to the whole range of behavior associated with the psychological phenomenon of sex. Human sexuality is a powerful force which has molded the culture of all human societies and the lives of individuals. It is now recognized as a component of general health services, particularly family health. Now, let us highlight the meaning and definition of sex education. The meaning and definition of sex education is certainly different from the concept of what the ordinary man thinks. It is generally believed that sex education is synonymous with family life education. In common usage, sex education applies to the instructions of young people with regard to the basic facts of reproduction and sex. Human sexuality is the core of sex education. Sex education can be defined as the education on physical, emotional, intellectual, and social aspects of an individual's sexuality with the purpose of developing in the individual rational and responsible attitudes and behavior to the sex for a harmonious sexual life. According to National Indian Education Study, sex education is an educational program to assist young people in their physical, social, and emotional development as they prepare for adulthood, marriage, parenthood, and aging. From the aforementioned definition of sex education, the following features can be stated as: it is an educational program, it is an organized and systematic program, it is an integrated educational program along with general and normal education, It is the exploration of knowledge and attitudes about sex deviations, normal sexual attitude, the human reproductive system, marriage, family life, bad effects of early marriage, etc. It is an educational program from grassroots level till old age. Thus, it is a continuous and lifelong program. Sex education includes issues about our maleness and femaleness. It undertakes the anatomical and biological explanation of the human body. Having understood the meaning and definition of sex education, let us talk about its need and importance. Demography has shown that teenagers form the maximum percentage of population. These teenagers are the school-going and college-going students. All India Educational and Vocational Guidance Association 1963 reported that 54% of male students and 42% of female students stated that they did not have sufficient knowledge regarding matters of sex. This survey reveals that there is an urgent need of extensive and effective sex education and guidance in India. The following are some important points to discuss the need and importance of sex education. The people in India are very conservative. Their conservation has not allowed the inclusion of sex education in school education. Sex-starved youth in schools and colleges are found to spend much of their time and energy in thinking and reading about sex. Today's children are very efficient and conscious of the fact that their parents and elders talk some secrets behind them. If the secret is concealed from them, they may take some wrong approach and develop some undesirable habits. Positive educational effort is necessary to promote the individual's fulfillment both in personal living and in his family and social relationship. Most population of India is ignorant and are not aware about the ill effects of the population growth and large family. The parent hesitates to make their children aware about the sex roles. The tremendous use of TV and cinema has made our youngsters experiment their sex drives with the opposite sex members. School teachers are so orthodox that they do not prefer to impart sex education to the youngsters. They do not feel that giving sex education to our youngsters is a noble profession. Sigmund Freud has categorically stated psychosexual development through 5 stages. He argues and opines the presence of sex drives since the birth of a child. For this reason, sex education should be an unavoidable part of our educational program. As the number of incidences of sexually transmitted diseases are increasing, the need for sex education is felt. Now, dear students, we will try to understand the aims and objectives of sex education. For including any subject in the curriculum, the objectives of that subject should be clear. An objective must be both desirable and attainable. Different people have different aims regarding sex education. There are some people whose aim to provide sex education is to frighten young people about the sexually transmitted diseases. There are still others whose aim is to produce morality in the pupils by threatening them about the dangers of the wrong use of sex. But a morality worthy of the name should not be based on such type of unnecessary fear, so such aims are not desirable. There are also certain aims of sex education which, though desirable, but are not feasible. For example, some think that the aim of sex education is to make all marriages successful, all divorces disappear, and abolish all sorts of illegal sexual relations. This seems to be hopelessly unrealistic. then the question arises, what should be the aims of sex education that are both desirable and practical? The answer is as follows. The aim of sex education should be to develop an understanding of psychological basis of sex, to understand difference between normal sexual behavior and abnormal sexual behavior, different forms of sexual insults, sexual deviations and their causes, the influence of political, social, cultural, economic aspects of human life on the development of sex roles, human anatomy with special reference to sex mechanism, biological factors and phenomenon of reproduction which are responsible for the continuity of species, the evil effects of sexual disorders on the normal life, different stages of psychosexual development, development of appreciation on the fact that normal sexual life leads to happy life. Government policies should be developed to control AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases. Various educational programs on sex. The role of mass media on sex education. Enabling the pupils to develop a right and wholesome attitude towards sex education, to stay away from all types of sexual offences, to utilize the best sex educational program in their life, to differentiate between normal and abnormal sexual gratification. After understanding the aims and objectives of sex education, now we will understand the different methods of sex education. Broadly, the methodology of a program for sex education would include the following: information on the anatomy and physiology of reproduction. This may be given through talks illustrated by charts, flashcards, flip charts, and models, question-answer sessions, and films. Individual and group discussions on the physical and emotional changes associated with puberty. Individual and group discussions, question and answers, or films followed by discussions on behavior towards the opposite sex, standards and moral codes. Individual and group discussions on such questions as choice of the marriage partners, arranged and love marriages, and the responsibilities of marriage and parenthood. Information about the population problem and the necessities for small families for the welfare of the individual, the family, and the community. Now students, we will discuss different types of sex therapies. Sex problems can be cured to a greater extent by the following therapies. First is the somatic therapy. This comprises physical, pharmacological, surgical, and hormonal therapies for such conditions as traumatic injuries, diseases of sex organs, genital tract infections, impotency, etc. Second is the behavioral therapy. This aims at changing attitudes and behaviors to meet the needs of the individual patients. Third is the psychoanalysis. This can be useful in problematic situations such as fantasies and imaginations in sexuality. Fourth is the psychotherapy. These may include verbalization of emotions, messages, use of audiovisual aids to increase body awareness. Sex therapy should be provided as a part of the general health services. Now students, we will discuss the role of parents and teachers in imparting sex education. In our country, it's not possible for all the parents to give sexual education to their children. Even when there is an urgent need, the parent is often frustrated by the problem of simple vocabulary. Many parents only know the folk terms of the sexual organs and the sexual processes. They do not know the alternate and scientific terms of the words and phrases which may be used in public without any hesitation. Moreover, many children prefer to ask questions regarding sex to any other adult except their own. Many parents also are of the view that there is no need of any formal sex education. The children will know it automatically in course of time. A new generation of parents, better educated with both biological knowledge, may successfully shoulder the responsibility. But at present, it is not possible. Now, regarding the role of teacher in sex education. Teacher is an important member of society. Young generations are more under the control of teachers than even parents. So, they may play very important role in youngsters' life. The education imparted by the teacher should be proper, realistic and imparted in a right manner. Regarding sex education, it should be imparted by teacher very carefully. Otherwise, it may become more harmful than helpful for the students. The teacher has to remember the following points while imparting sex education to his pupil. First, the classroom atmosphere should be warm and friendly. It should encourage the open-minded discussion in which student feels free to ask questions which disturb them and can expect to get honest answer. Matters relating to sex should be discussed direct and in unemotional manner. The normal aspect of sex should be emphasized. The main objective should be to build healthy attitude towards sex which enable the students to make wise choices. Problems should be discussed with students and they should be helped to draw their own conclusions. Films, charts and other audiovisual aids should be used for clarification. Carefully, books related to sex education should be made available to the students in library. So, in conclusion, we may say that there are many problems faced by our society and sexual problems are undoubtedly one of the most crucial problems. Sex drives develop in man right from the birth. Man's sexual instinct has both psychological and biological influences. Further, for the normal development of human personality, it is essential that the person's sexual development should also be quite normal, because if the sexual development is abnormal, it may lead to many mental diseases and illnesses. So, there arises an urgent need of sex education, and this should be imparted from the younger ages. In imparting sex education, parents and teachers play an important role. Teacher, while imparting sex education to his pupil, has to develop warm and friendly classroom atmosphere. So, in short, we may say that sex education can be imparted in a better way if parents, teachers, youth and social workers work hard instead of shifting the responsibilities. So, friends, this was all about sex education. Hope you have understood and enjoyed the lecture. Thank you and goodbye.